Raila ameenda kwa Ruto, ametuacha. Mimi sijaenda kwa Ruto. Ruto amekuja kwangu.
You see, there's a common denominator. The denominator is you cannot run your government without me. So we leave it to the analysts to say, if you cannot run your government without me, then who's marrying who? Yeah, because you can see the scenarios very clearly that Moi had trouble, and then
he went to
Raila. Yeah, sometimes, you know, it is not the husband who proposes to the wife. Sometimes the wife can propose. By the way, in sociology we say, even if the husband is seen to be the one who has proposed, it is always the wife or the woman
who proposes.
They must give you some cues that can give you courage and say, I think here I can throw my lines.
So Raila has the numbers.
Definitely.
And that's why he's saying, they came to me.
You did hear him in Machakos?
Yeah.
When he says,
by the way,
I've been winning all these elections.
Kwa hivyo mimi usiambie mimi nataka mimi nishinde. Mimi sashinda mara mingi. Sijatangazwa tu. Mimi najua mwaka juzi tulikuwa nasema fungeni saba. Sisi tufungeni saba. Maana tulikuwa najua ndani ya saba kuna ukweli. Walifungua. Lakini muhimu ni kwamba Kenya ni mkubwa kushinda sisi.
In today's program, we take a deeper look into the actions of a Kenyan government minister who has alleged that the country's national intelligence agency was behind the abduction of his son last year. Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi has become the first member of the cabinet to publicly criticize the government, stating that President William Ruto had to personally intervene and call on the National Intelligence Service, NIS, to release his son. Muturi's public mention of Ruto's name in connection with the abduction is seen as a bold challenge to the president and a deviation from the principle of collective responsibility in government. Join Professor Halimu Shauri of Pointe University as he breaks down the political and legal ramifications of this defiant stance against the presidency.
My name is Professor Halimu Shauri. I'm a professor of sociology. Sociology is a subject that handles social issues, it provides social analysis, and the field of social analysis is very wide, very broad, touches almost every aspect of human life. And one of those areas that are critical is politics. So sometimes we also make comments about politics. And there is an interesting development that is in the country for a while now, having a cabinet secretary who was once an attorney general of this republic in the current government, sitting and trying to present a dissenting view in terms of how the cabinet is running its activities. And this is none other than J.B. Muturi, a respected lawyer, a respected legal mind. And I think in his wisdom, and of course guided by the law, I think J.B. Muturi, in some point, he has a point, because Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya is very clear in terms of principles of good governance. And in the principle of good governance, one of the critical aspects is the rule of law. And within the rule of law now, you find his proposition that he cannot attend a cabinet, or he cannot sit in cabinet, and he has skipped, I think, 3 sittings of cabinet till a cabinet memo addresses or include the issue of disappearances that have been happening since the Gen Zs and the abductions that have been taking place. And I think within that purview of the law is very right, because we have a very robust constitution. with very clear bills of rights and of course very clear Article 10 in terms of how this country should be run. And it is actually unusual for ministers in many African governments, not only Kenyan government, to dissent, because we come from a history of cabinet secretaries or cabinet ministers towing the line. And in quite a number of governments that we have seen before, that we are seeing in Kenya and in other countries, there is a lot of, I can say, towing the line or sycophancy in terms of what is proposed goes, or what the boss says goes. And I think within the principles of good corporate governance, someone is allowed to dissent. And a dissenting view, it may not be a popular view that is accepted by many, but a dissenting view should be recorded, even in normal board meetings, that somebody who is against an idea, it should be minuted that there was a dissenting voice, and this dissenting voice was given by so and so, and it is quite okay. Quite okay, because we are running within the principles of democracy, which is again Article 10 of the Constitution, within the framework of good corporate governance. And in a democratic institution or democratic governance, the majority have the way, but the minority should have a say. So in this context, JB Muturi is a minority in cabinet, but he should have his say. So what is the fear of tabling a memo and discussing extrajudicial disappearances and abductions and those disappearances? I think it is in order that a cabinet memo addresses this question. And if it is a question that will go on vote, for example, members can vote. And definitely, when members vote, he is alone, he's a single voice in cabinet, but at least this issue would have been tabled and this issue would have been discussed. It is commendable, and I want to commend JB Muturi for standing for his principles, because in this world sometimes we are counted based on our principles, and I think him having had first-hand experience, having had his son being abducted, I think if he doesn't go this way, then he doesn't provide leadership for the country. And I know it is not easy for someone to speak truth to power.
Was it a political display for Muturi? Because how do you challenge the president in public, and you are the member of the cabinet?
I think he had run out of options, because I think he first raised his issues and he wrote to the president. But if then the president did not respond to his letter, because he made it very clear in one of the interviews that he did a letter to the president to explain his dissatisfaction and to request for this thing to be tabled in cabinet, which he has not received any response, for which, of course, is one of the strategies for resolving conflicts on the part of the president. Sometimes you can ignore issues, and when you ignore them, they die on their own. But sometimes it depends on the weighty of the issue. The issue that JB Muturi is addressing is a very weighty issue. I don't think it can die on its own, because in as much as he may see JB Muturi as one individual or one cabinet secretary, he is speaking for many people, because there are many people who have had these experiences who don't have the platform to raise their voice, who don't have the courage to write to the president. But the abductions have been there. The Ugandan presidential candidate, Kizza Besigye, was abducted from here. The Turkish guys were abducted from here. The Tanzanian human rights defender was abducted from here, and several other young people who participated or who alleged participated in the
But Prof, there is an oath of secrecy in any organization. I don't expect JB Muturi exposing what they talk to the president, to the public.
Yes, oath of secrecy is there, but the oath of secrecy is as far as matters of office operations are concerned. This is a complaint he's raising, and he's not raising a complaint just as an entity. He's raising a complaint on behalf of the voiceless, and he's raising an issue within a framework of himself being in government from a certain political party, from political angle. So you can be able to see that mix. So you need to see and differentiate JB Muturi as a cabinet secretary, JB Muturi as a member of this party,
DP.
As a party, as a DP, as member of a Democratic Party. So these are different JB Muturis. Sometimes we fail to differentiate people in terms of when he's a father, when he's a member of a political party, and when he's a cabinet secretary.
I'm calling upon you now to order an end to these abductions, which you promised, killings, extrajudicial killings, and an open inquiry to examine, inquire into how these things have been happening. We cannot make it normal.
So, in this context, JB Muturi may be speaking as a member of DP, not as a cabinet secretary.
Do we miss the President Moi when times like this? Because we cannot have such kind of nonsense happening. Or are we misusing the democracy we have?
Nguruwe hujikanga na mafuta yake.
Pana kueleza vitina yote, rumors na kadhalika, kwa sababu watu hawa ambao kuna ruka kichwa wanaeleza uvumi. Hata anasema Moi mgonjwa wapi? Kuja hapa.
I think we are not, Moi had his own, contribution to the growth of democracy in this country. He had his own rights and he had his own misses. But I think since that time, there's been a lot of progress in Kenya and a lot of opening up of the democratic space. And of course, when you open up a democratic space for people who have been oppressed for a long period of time, sometimes there can be excesses. But sometimes, let us look at the excesses in a positive manner. Positive manner in the sense, is this an issue that really has the gravity to be able to be discussed as a national issue? And to me, I will say yes, abductions and disappearances is a national issue.
National issue.
It should be talked about. Tomorrow you are in leadership, tomorrow you are not in
You're out
leadership.
of leadership. What
tomorrow
happens?
You abduct my son, tomorrow your son will
be abducted.
So do we want to do that? Because we don't want to have a country where people will have grudges and do revenges. We want a country that is peaceful, and the president, including his colleague whom they shook hand, one of the agenda is peace and unity. Peace and unity cannot come without addressing issues that are a precursor to some of the pain and to some of the conflict can arise.
Can he resign because of that? Because it looks like he has no faith in the government.
He was put in cabinet, and he was put in cabinet for a reason, to represent a certain interest in cabinet. And I think resigning even himself, he said, is not on his table. Because he is there, and he was not put in cabinet to keep quiet. He was put in cabinet because the executive or the president thought that he's capable of delivering certain functions within the government. So the capability does not change because he has opened his mouth. It will be interesting if you are put in cabinet and your mouth is completely shut. Then what are you doing in cabinet? If you cannot talk truth to power, then I think even being in cabinet is problematic, because even how do you introduce and share your ideas that you want to change your ministry? If you are fearful that when you say something...
is your boss.
Yeah, the boss is there, the boss is the chairman. The boss is the chairman, and when we chair meetings, by the way, which is very good issue that you have raised, I am an expert in good corporate governance. When you go into a boardroom and you have the chairman, even if the chairman is the president, you are members of that board. The only difference is that he's a privileged member because he's chairing the other members. It doesn't mean that when he sits in the boardroom, he sits there as president. He sits there as a member of the cabinet. So all the other cabinet secretaries have the opportunity, have the responsibility of airing their thoughts and their views, however probably negative they are. And then the decision that is made on consensus or on voting becomes binding even if we don't support that decision.
Let us try to think and to imagine what is going on the head of the chairman of the meeting or the president.
I think for me, it is just fear for nothing, because challenges will always be there. People who criticize ideas will always be there. But a great leader will always provide space for dialogue and discussion. If things are not discussed, they can never be resolved.
So his silence is not good.
Silence does not solve anything. Silence just keeps something at bay. At one time, it may explode. It may not explode through the same person that you keep silence. It may explode through another channel. It's the same way like there is a pressure on a pipe of water, and you block it from the side that is the
output side.
The output side. It can burst in another side. So it is important that when we are faced with a problem, we step back and we ask ourselves, is there merit in what is being raised? And if there is merit, why not talk about it? There are many channels that can be done to talk about it. The president can create a task force, for example, to listen into views about this. Even South Africa did the Truth and Reconciliation. We did it also here. We did the Truth and Reconciliation Commission here. We talked about our historical injustices. And etc. like that. There was also a task force that looked at Shakahola.
Very true.
Yeah, so if Shakahola,
and there is also the only one in Garissa. Is it Garissa or where?
Yes.
Madosu something.
The one that was done in Garissa, the Garissa massacre.
Yeah, the Garissa massacre.
So even this, there can be a task force that can present a report to the president in terms of what to do with these abductions that have happened, with these disappearances that have happened. Then we implement the report.
Now, let's go back to Muturi. He's planning to exit in a political way that my party has withdrawn, so also my services are not needed any further. Raila is watching the steps and most likely take advantage of this and come in. What's your take?
It is interesting because in any engagement, there are three options. One of the options is to be loyal. We call it loyalty. Another option will be to voice. We call it voicing. And the last option, which is the weakest option, is called exit. So in sociology, we have a theory which is very clear about that. It is called exit, voice, and loyalty. So Muturi, he is voicing. And when someone is voicing, it means there is something that is happening about loyalty, is doubting the loyalty. Can I be loyal? And if there are issues. And when somebody is voicing, it is an opportunity to recapture them towards loyalty. Because J.B. Muturi was loyal, and that's why he was the Attorney General. J.B. Muturi was loyal, and that's why he was appointed cabinet secretaries. And J.B. Muturi doesn't want to move out. He's still loyal, but he's saying there are some scratches, some rust, which we need to clean up. And this rust has to do with these disappearances. But now, if he is not listened to, then what is the option?
Exit.
The option is to exit. Even me, when I go to a shop or a supermarket, I buy tomatoes and they are not good, I complain. That is voice. But if you don't listen to my complaint, what will I do? I'll go to another kiosk. I will exit. So this is very clear that we give him an opportunity and listen whether he's making sense in whatever he's saying, and definitely he does. Then we address those issues. There are many ways I've said that can be able to address these issues. And if he exits, then they need to see what damage. Because also the president needs to look at a risk assessment of Muturi's exit, especially with regard to the accusation or to the alleged accusation that he's placing, that he needs an explanation, he needs to know what is happening with these abductions. And I think it is important because even you, Mlei, if you are a father and your son was abducted by the same government you are working for, don't you think you have a challenge even on the face of your children?
Very true.
So how do you face your children?
Very true.
So you tell your son now, it is okay, you are abducted, it is over.
No.
And you tell your wife, you know, my wife, it is okay, you know, he was abducted, but he's back. Don't worry my wife. He's a husband.
You have to show some responsibilities.
He's a father.
He's a father at home.
That's why we need to differentiate JB Muturi as a father, JB Muturi as a husband, JB Muturi as a lawyer, JB Muturi as a cabinet secretary.
Very true.
And I think it is within his different roles that this makes a lot of sense. And Kenyans must know that there's something we call role inversion. We don't perform our roles the same way. When someone is in the house as a husband, the role of a husband is completely different. When he's performing his role as a father, he forgets that he's a husband. He's a father now. And when he performs his role as a professional, now he's a lawyer. And when he performs his role as a cabinet secretary, now he's a cabinet secretary.
So don't bring your issues when I'm a father while you bring your husband issues.
Definitely, yes. So we need to put JB Muturi on a scale. Is he talking as a cabinet secretary? Is he talking as a lawyer or as a father or as a husband? And I've given you the clear analogy. He is a husband and he needs to answer to his wife, whom he saw for better,
for worse,
till death
do us part. Difficult.
Isn't this worse when your son is abducted, even if he has been released? So how does JB Muturi, for example, convince his wife and even convince his son so that he can earn and retain his respect as a father? So I think JB Muturi speaks for many voiceless fathers, fathers whose sons and daughters have been abducted and released and some have not. He speaks for many, and we should judge him on the basis of role inversion.
Now, let's get back to Raila, because this connects to Raila. To Raila is a new entrance into the government, and we can call it even a full now coalition government. We are waiting for other positions to be implemented or to be shared. Raila says, Ruto, do not marry me. I married Ruto. Is he trying to shelve away blame? Or is he trying to massage the followers?
I think it is within the framework of the several magical handshakes. When you do an analysis of the several handshakes from Moi's time to Kibaki's time to Uhuru's time to this one.
Ameenda kwa Ruto, ametuacha. Mimi sijaenda kwa Ruto. Ruto amekuja kwangu.
You see there's a common denominator. The denominator is you cannot run your government without me. So we leave it to the analysts to say, if you cannot run your government without me, then who's marrying you? Yeah, because you can see the scenarios very clearly that Moi had trouble and then he went to Raila. Yeah, sometimes, you know, it is not the husband who proposes to the wife. Sometimes the wife can propose. By the way, in sociology we say, even if the husband is seen to be the one who has proposed, it is always the wife or the woman
who proposes.
They must give you some cues that can give you courage and say, I think here I can throw my lines.
So Raila has the numbers.
Definitely.
And that's why he's saying, they came to me.
You did hear him in Machakos when he says, I've been winning all these elections.
Kwa hivyo mimi usiniambie mimi nataka mimi nishinde. Mimi sashinda mara mingi. Sijatangazwa tu. Mimi najua mwaka juzi tulikuwa nasema fungeni saba. Sisi tufungeni saba. Maana tulikuwa najua ndani ya saba kuna ukweli. Walifungua. Lakini muhimu ni kwamba Kenya ni mkubwa kushinda sisi zote.
But I've always been announced as a loser. So there's something that he knows that probably we don't know. We are just speculating when he's struggling to go to court and challenge the presidential election. There's something he knows. And he made it very clear that he has been winning. I don't know how true that it is, but he can validate it. He said it himself. So if then that is the truth, then it can tell you why he has the audacity to say that he's the one who was the
husband. I didn't say it anyway. Now, this brings to another character of Raila.
Kwamba Kenya ni mkubwa kushinda sisi zote. What's important is democracy is a project. It's not an instant coffee that you brew and drink at the same time. What is important that Kenya remains together. Hakuna haja ya kusema Raila asimame 1927 kama 27 hiyo Kenya itafika pale kama imechomeka. Kenyans need to live between now and 2027.
I think he has a very strong sense of resilience and a strong sense of love and patriotism.
Of the country.
Yes, I think Raila loves the country so much that at some point he feels that I have my personal interest, I want to be the president, but if I push too hard, then there will be no country to be the president. So it reaches a point it says, okay, let us tolerate, let us, accommodate this situation and let us forge forward as Kenyans. Because you can see, like in 1992, it was really hot. During the post-election violence, if you could have pushed it a little bit more, the country would have burnt.
The same as 2007.
Yes, and 2007. In the lines of Rwanda, the country could have burnt badly. But he swallowed his personal interest and said the country is larger than Raila. And he decided to do a handshake that was overseen by the late Kofi Annan.
The same statement was said by the late Professor Saitoti.
Saitoti, yes. That sometimes comes a time when the nation is bigger than personal convictions and personal interest.
Mtukufu Rais ambaye ndio mwanachama wa kitaifa la chama chetu tunao cha KANU. Wote wanachama wa KANU, kama mnavyojua, kabla ya lile resolution ambayo imepitishwa, nimekuwa nakalia kiti cha naibu wa kwanza wa mwenyekiti wa taifa. Nimewatumikia wote watu wa KANU zaidi ya miaka 13. Kupitiana na katiba ambao mumepitisha siku ya leo, kiti hicho cha First National Chairman hakiko. Na kama mnavyojua, nilikuwa nimesema nitasimamia baina ya mojawapo ya vile viti 4. Na ninajua wengi zaidi mlitaka nisimame, si ndio? Ngoja, there come a time when the nation is more important than an individual. It is because of that consideration and in consultation that I say I shall not offer myself as a candidate for any position. I can see many of my supporters are unhappy, but you will prove me right in the future. Asante.
For you to reach that level of having such kind of mentality, you must be very mature.
Yes, it is high display of political maturity, because politics, as I always say, is two-sided. You either win or you control power. So sometimes if you've not won, but you know you can control power, you're still in politics. So you can say, okay, kiache iende, but I know where I'll control it from. In conflict management and in conflict resolution, there are models that have been used for successful conflict resolution. And one of the successful models that can be applied in the issue of disappearances is the Beyond Yes model. The Beyond Yes model is guided by critical questions. The first question in a conflicting situation is for the conflicting parties to ask themselves whether they are the problem. So basically it goes like, am I the problem? So if people can be able to analyze themselves and be able to see that they are the problem, then they can forge a way out of the problem. So in this context, we are asking the two people, J.B. Muturi and the president who received the letter from J.B. Muturi, they should ask themselves whether they are the problem. If they are the problem, then they should be able to see how they sit together and resolve this. Secondly, is a question of what is my interest? In any conflict, there are interests. So what is the interest? If we can be able to put our interest on the table, then we can be able to finish the conflict in a very easy way. Because sometimes it is just not an antagonistic situation for the sake of it. It is an antagonistic situation based on interest. And if we can be able to get out of our egos and place our interests on the table, then you can be able to know my interest, and then I know your interest, and say, then how can we work together? And now, this kind of tabling of interest resonates very well with what has happened in terms of the president and Raila. Yes, what is your interest, Raila? And what is my interest, Ruto? My interest is peace and stability. My interest is to fight corruption. My interest is, you see, if the interests are put on the table and then Ruto says, by the way, I have the same interest, why can't we shake hands? Yes. So why can't they use the same model with J.B. Muturi?